52 yards should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Yo. Welcome in, golf fans. It's Farmers Insurance Open Week out at Torrey Pines. This is the Preferred Lines podcast. My name is Joe Idoni. You can find me on Twitter at TourPicks. If you're checking back into the show, we've got a big one tonight. Welcoming in a very special guest here in just a few minutes. I appreciate your support as always. If it's the first time you stopped into this show, thanks for checking it out. Go on over to the Preferred Lines YouTube page if you want to get involved in the chat. I love to bring those comments up during the show. A like and a sub, as always, goes a super long way. I'm also pumped to welcome back one of our longtime sponsors of Fantasy Golf Pod, my boys Chad, Eric, Jish. They run the Golf Guys program on Wednesdays. We support those who support us. Give them a check out. Give them a follow at Fantasy Golf Pod on Twitter. Now, I've got an awesome guest lined up today. It brings me a tremendous honor to welcome into the show for the very first time. He's an insanely talented golf writer. Has now upped his game majorly with the video and on-course content to a whole nother level. Welcome into the Preferred Lines podcast, Dan Rapaport. What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thrilled to have you join the show. So let's get right into it. I have a question right off the bat. So you made an eagle this weekend in a professional golf tournament. Talk to me about how insanely cool that moment must have been.
Yeah, I guess it was before the TV coverage started because I didn't see it anywhere on Golf Channel. No, it was funny. I bogeyed my first 4 holes of the day, which was not ideal. I'm a scratch plus 1 player, so that was definitely like a shock to the system. And my 5th hole today, the 14th hole, is dogleg left par 4 with water all down the left side. I'm trying to hit a cut kind of off this bunker, and I pull it, and so I think it's definitely going in the water. And it's just amazing how one little break just changes an entire round. If that thing goes in the water, it probably doesn't cross the hazard. I'm probably hitting 3. I probably make 6, maybe 7, and we're officially spiraling. Instead, it just clears, so it cuts the corner by a lot. I had like an 8-iron in or something to the par 5 in the bunker, clipped one nicely off the turf to about this far, poured it right in the middle, and we were on our way. So, yeah, it was really, really fun. Thanks so much to them for having us. Got up and down for birdie on the last hole in front of a couple hundred people, which was really, really cool. You always dream of it as a kid. You make a putt, you thank the crowd, you tip your cap. I actually got to do it. So that was pretty awesome. It was a great week. A ton of respect for those women and the grind that they put in, because just mentally after 1 round of tournament golf, you're fried. So to do it, 4 rounds in a row, city to city, country to country, those women are superhuman.
Yeah, so you're coming to us live from sort of the Barstool offices there in New York. It's been really exciting to kind of follow along on your journey with them and sort of like stepping into this world of like on-course golf.
It's a crazy
content.
world, dude.
Like,
it's a crazy world.
Did it shock you how interested people on the internet are in like you guys playing golf?
Oh, 1,000,000%. A million percent. Because I come from a very traditional journalism background. I went to journalism school for college. I worked at Sports Illustrated, which is like, the dean of sports journalism. I went to Golf Digest, again, very like buttoned up. And I kind of knew that there was this ecosystem of guys playing golf on YouTube that people were really into, and they're getting a lot of subscribers and sponsors. But when you're not in it, and you're not paying attention to it, you just don't really get it. And so I was stunned at how big of an emphasis YouTube is for us moving forward. I mean, it's growing like crazy. You see these guys like Good, like Bob Does Sports, these brands that are just popping up that are getting hundreds and thousands and millions of subscribers on YouTube. I guess the lesson is that, like, when people are working their accounting jobs or their sales job in the middle of winter, they just want to feel like they're out there on the golf course with their boys. And I guess, hopefully that's sort of what we provide for them. So yeah, I was very surprised. I continue to be very surprised. I knew that I was kind of stepping into a crazy environment as far as Barstool and as far as commenters go. But the whole thing's just been crazier than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, there's something like endearing, like, because as just, you know, a 35-year-old man, to I'm sure your audience base is huge, but when you get to see someone out there who like is on a somewhat level playing field, like you get to see a guy chunk a chip like you would, and people, and you're giving sort of club and just the talks in between holes, it's definitely captivating, I think, more so than you see a lot of times on the coverage.
Yeah, and it's crazy how young it is too. You know, we get these analytics reports or whatever about, you know, the different audiences, and you know, I would be willing to bet that you know, a large percentage of young people in, you know, sort of that 10 to 18 demographic, you know, a lot of these people, they watch way more golf on YouTube than they do on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not close. And so it's just new media, man. It's trying to stay up with the times. It's trying to meet people where they are. And, you know, if that's moving toward YouTube, if that's moving toward kind of more unscripted, fly on the wall content, then that's where we'll go, because you know, we're entertainers at the end of the day. That's definitely something that I've transitioned into, you know, going from this like hardcore journalist to more of an entertainment role. It's different, but you know, I'm only 28, so if I'm a crusty old journalist who can't adapt with the times, then my career's not going to last very long. So got to stay with the kids.
So talking some professional golf, like you mentioned, you guys foreplay, good, Bob does sports, all this. People who are legit moving the needle in terms of people who follow them and people who watch them play golf. Like, as we shift over to talking professional golf, how many true like needle movers do we have in market movers that are playing professional golf right now that people will just, no matter the tournament, no matter the platform, no matter the streaming service, no matter the channel, people will tune in to watch this guy play golf? How many of those guys do you think there are?
Yeah, well, I was looking at the ratings for the American Express, and it appears that John Rahm is not one of those people, because
Yeah.
the ratings weren't very good. You know, I think it's obviously you're going against the NFL. It's not apples to
Sure.
apples, but the answer is not many. I mean, there's one, and then there's kind of everybody else. Obviously,
Yeah.
Tiger is still the guy. But if you look at the PIP standings, I mean, I think that's a pretty good indication of at least like a ranking. And so I think Tiger, Spieth, and Rory are the only three guys on the PGA Tour. You know, JT's kind of close, but I don't know if he's at that tier where they just transcend the normal golf audience and people who, you know, maybe flip on the golf coverage when it's convenient for them, or, you know, they just kind of have Golf Channel on passively in the background. You know, not guys like you or me who are watching every minute of PGA Tour live that they can. I would say that those three guys are the only ones that people are really going to be, oh, it's Jordan Spieth's in the lead, I'm going to watch this. I remember looking at this, like the ratings for the Heritage last year when he won were massive. They were massive. And the only real reason there is because of Jordan Spieth. So those three guys, I mean, I suppose Phil, he just is never in contention, really. I mean, the PGA was a fever dream, and the ratings were off the charts, and people were watching because, yeah, if Mickelson's in contention, people are going to watch. He's not there consistently enough. He's literally been there like once since 2018, and it was that crazy week, and everybody watched. So, you know, you'd say those four, but I don't even know if Mickelson's, you know, good enough anymore to consider him as someone who's going to be carrying a broadcast on Sundays moving forward.
So the marquee face right now of the PGA Tour, I think, is Rory, right? In terms of just overall, like, Tiger's that guy, but he just doesn't play enough. The problem is kind of, I think they may have an issue with Rory not playing enough either. We're now 14 events into this season. He's played once.
Right.
Marking this week when he misses the Farmers, that will be 9 consecutive PGA Tour tournaments. That does not include their biggest star in the game right now. Is that a problem for the PGA Tour, and how do they potentially address it?
Yeah, I mean, it is a problem. First of all, I was very surprised he didn't play Sentry in
Right.
Hawaii. I guess it's a long way to go from Florida. He's definitely getting a bag to play this week in Dubai. That is for sure. And remember, they can, you know, the DP World Tour can offer appearance fees, and the PGA Tour cannot. So if they're going to pay you a couple $100,000 to go, then you're going to go to that tournament over another one. It is an issue, but I think, you know, we're going to have to start to think about this differently. We're going to really have to start to think about the PGA. There's 2 PGA Tours, and this is something that, you know, is sort of clear this year, but I think will be even clearer next year, where it's like, we're going to have to fundamentally like the PGA Tour for those top guys is no longer going to be this 48 event season. It's going to be these 15 events or 13 events. I think there's 13 that are non-majors. And we're just going to have to think of the PGA Tour as a much smaller product. That's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I think those weeks will feel bigger. And I'm very, very much looking forward to Phoenix and LA back to back. You're going to have all the stars playing both events. I think golf will pick up a lot of momentum there. But yeah, I mean, we're just not going to think about this stretch of after the Tour Championship really until Phoenix, or I guess until Century. Like, that's just not really the PGA Tour anymore in the classic sense of, you see the PGA Tour and you expect the biggest players to be there. We now know when they're going to play and when they're not. And it's going to be less events where all of them are together, but hopefully those events are bigger. And because that's really where the game grows, is not trying to eke out another, 20,000 or 30,000 viewers of the American Express. It's going all in on these weeks that already have an identity, that already have a history, and already have a legacy.
So I want to ask you a little bit about when your correspondence with the players. I've long noticed, like going back to the Golf Digest days, that you have a comfort level, it seems like, with the players that it maybe, I don't know what it is, but it seems to sort of disarm them from like their robotic answers that they'll give in the media center to a lot of like, quote unquote, the old heads in media. I feel like it's because they can tell that there's like a genuine interest in the game on your end. There's a genuine, like, almost, I don't want to say a fanhood, but you're willing to embrace it. You don't want to just like close off and be so guarded that don't have any rooting interest. And I think that kind of aligns well with you and with Barstool. So you guys are able to get these player interviews where they're giving you real, honest answers. Have you noticed this as well? And have you gotten any pushback in like the media rooms over the years about how you cover golf?
Absolutely, I have. I remember, last year when Matt Fitzpatrick won the U.S. Open, and that's, been one of my best friends for like close to a decade now. And I was out there and we were hugging and stuff. And yeah, I remember I got back to the media center. People were like, "You should have seen what the cameras caught you doing. You're going to be in trouble, blah, blah, blah." I think media has changed. I think coverage has changed. And I actually think Bill Simmons is probably the originator of this, of like, I'm not going to be afraid to have a rooting interest. I'm just going to be transparent about it, right?
Yeah.
Because no one is unbiased in the entire world. They just hide their bias. But Simmons was the first guy who was like kind of tore down that wall between quote unquote covering a sport and being a fan of it. And I think, it's the same as talking to anyone in any walk of life. When someone is passionate about something and someone likes something, that comes off in the way they speak about it. I don't want to read or listen to someone who's complaining all the time about all the things that they hate about golf. And I think there's a lot of that in the media, in the sort of old school golf media of all the, this used to be better back in my day. And, this was better and this sucks and this course sucks and this player's terrible and it's all about money. And I just think there's a pessimism that bleeds through into your work that people just don't want to read. Or don't want to listen to, or don't want to watch. And so, I think I'm young, so I think I can sort of relate to these players. I grew up playing competitively. I have a competitive playing background, which I think they also respect.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just not trying to hide, the deal. I'm basically, I kind of view myself as like, if you gave a golf nut and a golf fan this incredible access, that's what I feel like I'm trying to convey, and I'm trying to convey that excitement to the reader. So I appreciate you saying that, and I hope that never changes. I can't say that at 48 I'll have the same passion and energy that I have at 28, but let's hope so.
Yeah, there's a relatability to it that certainly strikes the chord with a lot of people. So this show, Dan, like, we mainly cover golf from a gambling perspective. I know something that Barstool has never shied away from these sort of talks. Oftentimes, the most hardcore fans and the people that are watching featured groups on a Thursday at 8 a.m. is a large portion of this sort of gambling population and fantasy guys. Now, fantasy football and gambling like added rocket fuel to the NFL. And I feel like we're on the precipice of that with the PGA Tour and professional golf. It can be like a vehicle for semi-casual fans that want a rooting interest, that they want eyeballs on the game. But I feel like the tour has sort of stepped into it, but very casually. So my problem with a lot of the coverage and what they talk about in terms of gambling and DFS is there's a large portion of their audience, I feel like, that just doesn't care about it, right? That doesn't care about gambling odds, doesn't care about, fantasy lineups and all this stuff. And then there is a portion that is, and I guess the group that's covering it, you can sense there's some insincerity to it. There's a little bit of fakeness to it that doesn't ring true with those people. So ultimately, it's not for anyone at that point. The real gamblers can sense a fish, and the other people don't care about it. What do you think is coming in terms of providing a better product to this group of viewers that is probably their most hardcore and loyal group of fans right now.
It's a really good point that you're making, because I was looking at, again, we're talking a lot about ratings, but they are sort of indicative of interest. And ESPN Plus ratings are like up like crazy from the year before, and that's the core fan. You're right. You're right. You need, if you're going to talk about gambling, you need someone who knows how to talk about gambling. And so when you're giving these guys these odds that they don't understand, it's clear as day that they don't know what they're talking about and they don't really care what they're talking about. Maybe I really do think that the future of sports coverage, and I know Barstool believes this too, is these sort of Manning casts, is these sort of alternate feeds where, you get a guy like yourself, you get a guy like Rick Gaiman, you get a guy who's really, really all in the gambling space, or a Pat Mayo, and you let them go, and you let them build their own audience. And then it's sort of the PGA Tour meets the kind of on-course Barstool-y Bob Does Sports vibe that we were talking about, where people just feel like they're part of a community. So I think having these sort of gambling-specific broadcasts, whether that's just a stream or a little toggle on ESPN Plus, I think that's sort of the future, because the tour is getting there. I think they're opening a sports book at TBC Scottsdale.
Yes.
They've got all of these different official gambling partners. They're getting there. The coverage is just a little bit behind. I think there's also red tape as far as, gambling's still not legal in every state. So there's only, there are rules about what they can talk about. But I do think these sort of Manning cast type broadcasts are the future of sports, really across the board. You saw Pat McAfee had one, I think, for the college national championship. The Manning cast is obviously super successful for Monday Night Football. So I think continuing to infuse this fan aspect and to let's just not pretend like we don't know what's going on. And by that, I mean, let's not turn a blind eye to, like you said, this massive segment of the audience whose primary interest is the wagering.
I'm glad you said that, because I totally agree. Having a dedicated sort of stream or a feed that is just focused on who's going to make the cut? Like, where's that cut line at Friday? That's one of the most thrilling parts of all this that I feel like they fail to cover in many aspects is the cut sweat on Friday afternoon. So I think you're spot on there.
Look, the product is changing. Like, golf is changing. You saw today TGL. We got some more details about what that's going to look like. I'm sure there's going to be a gambling component of that. Live is forcing the PGA Tour to try things. And so I wouldn't be surprised if some of these things that we're talking about that seemed so far-fetched just 12 months ago happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, so we got the announcement a few hours ago, I believe, of the Live schedule. We got the announcement about 4 or 5 days ago about the deal with the CW. How does this impact their growth? Is this going to, obviously they get on a lot of American televisions, right? How does this impact, they've kind of positioned themselves as the global tour, I feel like, and really going after that market. But the CW, from my understanding, is only available within the US. So how are they still going to be able to have streams? Are they still going to have YouTube?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have YouTube, but they've already had distribution partners in different countries. I think the CW is just their American deal. But you're right. They have been kind of positioning themselves as the international tour, signing a lot of international players and pitching themselves as sort of the international flavor to the very US-centric PGA Tour. And yet 8 of the 14 events are in the United States. So it's really only 6 events that are international. Look, there's 2 ways of looking about this, at this, right? Just like everything, you can look at sort of the pro live angle, and you can look at sort of the live skeptic angle. If you look at the pro live angle, well, they've got 14 events, right? 8 of which are in the United States. They've signed a bunch of really good players, and they're on broadcast television. This is not cable, so anyone with TV gets the CW. On the other hand, simply being on television doesn't mean that people are going to watch it, because YouTube is available to basically everyone with an internet connection in the United States, and their numbers were terrible. I don't think anyone would argue that their numbers weren't terrible, the live stream on YouTube. So, look, man, we'll see. It'll be really interesting to see what companies air commercials during this, because Live still doesn't have any corporate sponsors that I know of. I think one interesting wrinkle is that the CW does not get a Nielsen rating on the times when Live's going to be out there. So we're probably not going to find out how many people are watching. But look, they have all the boxes checked now of a real sports league. You have a TV deal, you have players, you have events. I remain skeptical, very skeptical, that they will ever recoup these billions of dollars that they have spent to secure these players. But again, if that's not the goal, or if that's a secondary goal, then they can certainly afford to bankroll this thing for a few more years. But yeah, so they released their schedule. Norman's position seems to be actually strengthened. There was some,
Yes.
there was some question about maybe he would be leaving, or they were targeting a more traditional CEO. Well, it turns out Majed, the guy who was kind of calling the shots behind the scenes, is gone. So that's now 3 executives from their first season who are now gone. Norman is still there, and Liv rolls on. It's still about a month until they get their season going at Mayakoba, but at this point now, there's no more of this. Oh, once we get a TV deal, or once we get this in place. Now, like, Liv is a very real thing. They've accomplished a ton in 12 months, and they deserve a lot of credit for that from a logistical standpoint, getting this deal done, getting all these players, staging these tournaments. But now there's no more caveats. We're gonna really see these things go toe to toe the same weekend a lot. You're gonna have a PGA Tour event that's on CBS, and you're gonna be able to flip up just a couple channels and watch Liv on the CW. So we'll see how this works.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the jokes kind of made themselves, right? When they first announced the CW, and they're not synonymous in any way whatsoever with I'm going to go to the CW to watch a sporting event. But like at the same time, like I said that, and you can make the jokes, and then at the same time, like you've got a PGA Tour event with more top 20 players that's ever been at this event in a while, with John Rahm in the final group. And you can't really watch it until they're on like the 5th hole, and it's on ESPN Plus, and they aren't really covering them. So while it was easy to poke fun at it, there's a way, I think, in an avenue where they can get it right. And it's just a matter of time to see if that actually plays out.
That's the dirty little secret about Live last year, is that the broadcasts, if you were watching, were actually pretty good.
Yes.
I mean, it was a lot of golf shots, and obviously with no commercials, you don't have to worry about it. And you got one broadcast window. You're not missing anything. You don't have to follow on your phone. So we'll see if they keep that sort of democratic approach. And they won't be able to, because they're going to have to show commercials. That's the only way that they're going to make money on this broadcast deal. But I think the broadcast last year was very friendly for sure.
Yeah, so if there wasn't enough going on in the golf world, we're about to get this another shot of adrenaline here in like 3 weeks, hopefully as a positive thing. Golf Twitter is absolutely buzzing about Full Swing dropping on Netflix. You've got the infamous voiceover in the promo video. Have you seen any rough cuts? Can you give us any insight? And here's my real question. Is this a show for us, like me, like hardcore golf fan, or is this a show for like my buddies and my wife?
Yeah, it's more for your buddies and your wife. I think they're counting on you watching no matter what, which I suspect is true. People who love golf are going to watch this no matter what, because it's golf content on Netflix. We've never had that before. But no, the answer is yes. I've seen some rough cuts. And look, Netflix came in with an edict of, someone who has no knowledge of golf needs to be able to watch and enjoy the show. If you watched, I don't know if you watched Break Point, but it was the tennis show that just went on Netflix. It's the same production company, Box to Box. And in the first episode, they're explaining how the score works. I think there's going to be some similar stuff in Full Swing. I think they're going to have to teach people what a par is, or teach people, how the PGA Tour works, and that there are 4 rounds, and that, your score is not final until you play all 4 rounds. But I think that's a good thing, because the measure of this show is not going to be whether you or I watch. The measure of this show is whether we can appeal to those who don't watch the PGA Tour. And that's the breakaway success that we've seen from Drive to Survive and from Formula One, was you had all these sports fans who love sports, who had no exposure to Formula One, and these people are now hooked. Golf is trying to catch a little bit of that wave.
I hope they do. I noticed. So you had the voiceover line, which was like, excuse me if I get this wrong, but like winning golf tournaments is really hard. Have you seen this guy, John Rahm, lately?
By the way, it's true. Factually correct. I have seen this guy, John Rahm. He is doing his best to make that statement look really foolish. This is a guy who, I remember my favorite story about John Rahm is that when he turned pro, Phil Mickelson told the TaylorMade said that they felt that they had just signed a top 5 player in the world, and the guy was still an amateur. He was that good. I think he finished like 4th in Torrey as an amateur when he was in college. This has always been a guy who's been touted as someone who's going to win multiple major championships. He's still stuck on one, but the form that he's showing so far this year, I think last year there were 3 guys who kind of separated themselves in Scotty, Rory, and Cam Smith. We're only 1 month into the season, and Cam Smith hasn't played yet, and neither has Rory. But you can't have a best in the world conversation right now without starting and probably finishing with John Rahm.
Absolutely. 4 out of the last 6, like you mentioned. But here's the weird thing. He's still third in the OWGR. He can't crack the top 2. And I remember this putt they showed of Scotty Scheffler like late on Sunday on 18, which was like to go to number 1 in the world. Like he had to finish 9th. And it feels like it should have been so much more of a story that like John Rahm is on this run. Like if North Carolina beats Duke and beats all these other top seeds, they're ranked number 1. I feel like this problem has been boiling with the OWGR. Let's say there was like an old school Associated Press poll, right? And you had votes, Dan Rapaport. Like, give me who are your top 5 guys on the planet right now?
I think you have to start with Rahm just because, I mean, you don't want to choose against Rory because last time he was playing, it was Rory, but you know, he's not playing. So we have nothing to go off of. I think those 3 guys are probably like 1, 2, no, there's 4, I guess. Yeah. You'd have to say Rahm number 1. I would probably say Rory number 2, Cam number 3, and Scotty number 4, just because Scotty has been playing a little bit more.
Yeah.
And hasn't been winning. Number 5, it would be a good question. You know, I'm always a big believer in Justin Thomas. I feel like he's just been one of the more. I saw he dropped all. I think he's down to number 9 in the world right now. But you know, Cantlay I think is number 5, which I find to be a little bit inflated, just because he doesn't quite do it in the big events enough for me. So if I had to choose 5 guys, you know, you're going to a nondescript tournament somewhere, those would be my 5. You got Rahm number 1. Rory number 2, Cam Smith number 3, Scotty number 4, and I would take JT number 5.
Yeah, I like JT a lot. I hope that he has a big year. I really think that he holds a very important role in right now in this boost in golf popularity within the U.S. He's charismatic. He's unbelievably witty on Twitter. Like, he's got a great look. He's awesome in the format of a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup. Like, he's everything a competitive.
People like him. He's like friends with, he's friends with Brady. He's friends with Tiger. Like,
right.
He's definitely a cool dude.
I would love to see him. Like, it's kind of shocking that you see him, like, you know, he's not very, like, he doesn't have a ton of followers. Like, you got almost like a third of the followers that Justin Thomas does. It would be nice to see him sort of take on this role of the face of American golf for the next 5 years and really kind of step on the throne a little bit.
I think he will. You know, it's just about winning major championships, you know, and he added a second one. But, you know, I think Justin Thomas is one more major away from elevating into that sort of, you know, Spieth, Rory tier that we talked about, where he is a needle mover. You know, as his buddy Tiger Woods said, winning solves everything. So just start out with a couple wins, you know, maybe take one down in April in Georgia somewhere, and you know, watch your profile skyrocket.
Yeah. I have a question about a player to ask you and just see if you've heard anything on him. Daniel Berger. Are we dealing with an injury here? Are we is he coming back in the couple weeks? Have you heard anything in your circles about what's going on with Berger?
I haven't heard much. It's a name that I kind of haven't heard recently.
Yeah.
You know he was struggling with injuries last year. He's had some issues before. I don't know what the deal is. I'm guessing he's not in the field this week again.
No.
Is that right? Yeah. Don't know. Don't really know. You know, maybe he's someone that I really have I don't want to speculate with Liv. I have no idea. Have not heard that name very much recently.
Yeah, same here. All right, so we're going to get over to the sort of the betting board on the Farmers. I'm going to I appreciate your time, Dan. I know you've got tickets to see a Rangers game. It was incredible to have you on. Thank you for joining Preferred Lines. Look forward to continuing to follow you. And when's the next foreplay drop? Who do you got coming on?
We've got one coming on. I don't know when this goes live, but we got one on tomorrow, on Tuesday, with Larry Fitzgerald. So that'll be a fun one.
Awesome.
We interviewed him down in Orlando. The guy is an absolute golf nut. He's a member at Seminole. He made a hole-in-one at Seminole while playing with Barack Obama. So he's got a hell of a bag of stories.
He ran you through a gambit on the pickleball courts.
Oh my God. He put me, dude, I'm still sore. I'm actually still sore. It's pathetic given my age, but I am still sore. Because singles pickleball is just so different from, I mean, I've played doubles pickleball. It's chill, you know, you're half the court. It's small to begin with. Singles is like cutting and cutting and cutting and bending and cutting. And I need to get back in the gym.
Well, electric stuff last week in Orlando with the Eagle. Continue to do your thing, man. I genuinely appreciate you coming on, and we'll always support your stuff. So thanks a lot, Dan. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Happy to do it. Thanks, Joe.
All right. See you, buddy. All right. Thank you. We ran that interview about an hour ago or so because Dan had to run and do, like I said, he's going to the Rangers game. So was awesome to get him in here. Thankful for you guys for checking it out. I tried to pull up as many of your comments in the as they came in through Twitter. So thank you all for checking the pod out over there. Brent, Ted, Dan, Brandon, Nick Hardy wins this weekend. That's a ballsy take, buddy. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull up the board. Farmers. I'm not going to go too much into the course preview. My boy Andy did a fantastic hour-long podcast on Torrey Pines. John has the best write-up in sports over there on Torrey Pines. It's all for free on his page at PGA Tout. Check them out. We know the course. We know what to expect. So here's the one narrative I just want to touch on real quick. There is going to be a massive sort of group think going on this week because we know Torrey, right? We know what it is. And I think that you have to understand with that, what are you playing? Are you playing an outright market? Are you playing fantasy? Are you trying to find guys to top 40? Are you doing head-to-head? What are you doing? So I think for the purpose of this show with an outright betting show, it's okay to accept a groupthink narrative. It's proven to be indicative and corollary to success, certain attributes, certain stats, certain analytics. If you're playing a 90,000 person GPP on DFS, you may need to avoid some of those narratives and hope for a Snedeker outlier year where everyone's shooting 80 and he can get in early and something crazy happens. I think from an outright perspective, it's important to attack the angles that we know are true. Driving distance, long irons, around the green game. If you kind of stick to those three sort of areas and understanding that 11 out of the last 13 winners have come at 55 to 1 odds or lower, there's a certain portion of the odds board that you can kind of eliminate essentially right off the bat. All right, so let's go back to the top of the board here. Rahm. I hear a train coming. It's still coming. He's plus 450. I joked last week he was approaching Tiger odds range. It's getting there. Here's the problem, in my opinion, with these next guys. So Xander's 12 to 1, Finau 14 to 1, JT 16 to 1, Morikawa 18, Will Zalatoris 18. So when Rahm went from plus 650 or 7 to 1 or whatever he was gonna be a week ago in this field to 4 to 1, he's plus 390 on FanDuel, which is those are the odds you get in the second round when he's up 3. Plus 390. Plus 350 at Caesar Sportsbook. Unbelievable numbers. Those next tier of guys didn't really get that bump. So when he was shortened by 3 points, I don't think you got 3 more points on Xander. He wasn't going to be 9 to 1. I don't think you got 3 more points or 5 more points on Finau. That's where I'm a little bit shook here. Here's the thing. I bet Colin Morikawa, and I never, you guys know this, I don't really go there with Colin. The putting is always so worrisome to me. But he's had a good run at Torrey. The year that it was the U.S. Open, which I think this year could play very tough. They've seen more rain here. PGA Splits had a great write-up on it about how the rough is going to be thicker and juicier than we're used to. Total driving, distance, and accuracy, he ranks out really well. And the approach play is astonishing from the proximity ranges. You look at the number of shots you're going to have over 150 yards this week, particularly 200 plus yards. 1/3 of your shots are about going to be 200 yards, which is well above the tour average. He's 10th there. He's 20th in 175 to 200. He's first in 150 to 175. Of all the guys in the field from 150 to 250 yards, he's the best player in the field. Well above John Rahm's numbers, actually. So I like Colin this week. I think at 18 to 1, I believe I got a plus 1650 or something like that. That's the number that I like. That's where I'm going. I'm considering Will Zalatoris. I'm close. I read some things that Torrey is his favorite course and stop on the PGA Tour, that he thinks he's going to win here. The long iron play, the distance, 7,700 yards, seems to be a Will Z type course. Depending on how the rest of the card shakes out, I'll put that out tomorrow. we'll see how that kind of goes. Brett mentions Jock Market week. Yes. If you are into Jock Market, please hit me up. I would love to kind of talk you through it if you want to sort of try that out. Rick and I will have the Jock Market Power Hour show, which goes live every Wednesday, be moved up a day. So that's going to go live tomorrow night at 8:15 because of obviously the Wednesday week early start. Okay. Sung JM 22-1. Jason Day, a lot of love at 25-1. A lot of good reason for it. He looked fantastic. I don't love course history as a narrative here. And here's why. When Jason Day was winning here, he was a top 5 player in the world. When Justin Rose was winning here, he was a top 5 player in the world. Even going back to Snedeker, was one of the best players in the world. Alex Noren, when he competed here, was the best he has ever done on a PGA Tour. So the best players are going to show up. Now, is Jason Day what he was in 2016? No. 25-1 is too short of a price to play on Jason Day. Home is 25-1. Montgomery, we were close last week, except for that par 5. 30-1. Mav McNeely, 35-1. Here's the bet, guys. It's Hideki at 40-1. I don't want to look at stats. I want to look at what my brain knows. And I know that he's long off the tee. He's got plenty of distance. He's been working on getting longer. He's got extra in the bag. I know that he's one of the premium ball strikers with a 4, 5, 6, 7 iron that there are in the world. I know that he's got exquisite short game and touch. He's won at Augusta. He's won at Waste Management. These are places that are the hardest in the world to chip and pitch at. And he's 40-1. He's been at Torrey. I saw his caddy posted some photos last week of him practicing. The number's outrageous. I would take it all the way down 28-30-1. I still think it's a good bet. Of all the guys on the board, he doesn't belong below Mav McNeely, who's never won. He doesn't belong below Jason Day, who's on a hot run. It's Hideki. Let's take the 40. Okay. Siwoo Kim is like not a bad. If Hideki wasn't there, Siwoo Kim is not a bad bet at 45-1. Sahith is 50-1. Way too inaccurate. Don't love his numbers with long iron play. It's just not a great week. JJ Spawn's intriguing. Justin Rose is intriguing at 60-1. See, I'm inclined to say I'd pass on Jason Day and take 2.5x on the price on Justin Rose. I put the tweet out last week, a poll. Who'd you rather have? I think it was like 83% Jason Day. If you're playing fantasy, you may want to consider Justin Rose in that market. Cam Davis is probably going to get my money because 66-1 is out there right now on BetMGM. The problem is I don't have BetMGM. The number that I'm looking at is 45-1, but that typically will reset on Tuesday. If I can see 55 or 60, I'm going to make that bet. His top probably 7 or 8 in the field in driving distance. It's good enough with long irons. He's tidy around the greens. He's a good putter. I think that he's going to win a big boy event, and this is a good spot for that. Keegan, seen a lot of love on Keegan, 66-1 this week. Let me just pull up. I'm just pulling up some strokes gain numbers in the last 36 rounds just to kind of see if he's taking a dip because he was on such a phenomenal ball striking run up through probably the U.S. Open where he was number 1 in the field. Right now, strokes gained ball striking 50th in the field. So that's definitely sort of tapering off. The short game is 87th. Around the green is 121st. Yeah, he's definitely I'd rather have him on that other side. Taylor Pendrith is interesting. I think this is a good course for him. Would like to see some more positive signs through the fall, though I'm not quite there yet. This is when you start to get in the range. You guys know I love long shots. I don't think this is a week to bet them. I know Luke List happened at 80-1 last year. I know where's Scott Stallings, by the way? Scott Stallings is 141. This is a flyer top 10. Probably not the 140-1 number, although I'm not going to hate on you if you throw $10 on it and he finds himself in contention. It gives you a good position to sort of hedge out of if you like playing that way. He's got a first here. He's got the win here, which he was like 250 to 1. He's got a second here, I believe, the following year. Now, hasn't played great here since. I think of the new version of Scott Stallings. We know he's powerful, but he's more of a really like touch, nice wedge player now. I don't love his long irons, but it's hard to ignore that kind of number. Ben Griffin's been playing fantastic. Speaking of Jock Market, if you've played Jock Market, number one in ROI over the last like 10 events, he's basically doubling his price. So if you get shares of Ben Griffin at $3 per share, which he's been about average, you're doubling that week in and week out. He's just been printing money. There's Nick Hardy. I forget Nick Hardy. Brandon said he likes Nick Hardy. If you got a good reason why, sell me on it. I'm happy to hear about it. Steven Yeager's been playing fantastic. There's one guy I just wanted to mention. I don't think any of these guys are winning, for the record. Brent said he had 11 to 1 each way on Taylor Montgomery. That's not bad. Where is he? Matty Schmid. So I was looking into Matty Schmid and watching him a little bit. Last week was his best tour finish at 6th, I believe, which was at the American Express. Best PGA Tour finish. Young player. Driving distance, you don't know it when you look at the guy, and I would have never seen it, but I believe he's second in this field in driving distance this year so far. He's a bomber. Burmeister's getting love. Dietrich's getting love for being a bomber. Matty Schmid is 250 to 1. I think you can get like a solid top 40 number on him. And if the rough is really bad, we've seen this at Torrey before at the U.S. Open. We've seen it at places like Wingfoot. We've seen it at places like Quail Hollow with these paper thin fairways that you've got to hit. That basically the idea is everyone's going to miss it, right? So it's hugely advantageous to have 180 yards in and be a guy who can hit it far and hit a 7-iron there versus having 210 in and got to hit a 4-iron. Elementary stuff. You guys know the deal. Schmidt, I don't mind. Callum Tarrant's 275 to 1. He's up there in distance. Those are the like, you stick to your narratives about guys if you're going in that bomb range. So to recap, for me, I bet Colin Morikawa. I love Hideki. Those are my two guys in as of this moment. Considering Cam Davis, probably will get there on Will Zalatoris. Keep a nice tight card under 55 to 1. This show has been long. I hope that you guys enjoyed the segment I did with Dan Rapaport. I thought that it was super compelling to get some insight from him. We touched on a lot of topics. Let's enjoy, like, the course rotation season. We got one more week of it. We're having 8 courses over the span of 3 weeks, which is tough. But I appreciate you guys hanging with me and supporting the show as always. Make sure to please, if you enjoyed anything tonight, give it a subscribe on the YouTube page. I've got big goals and I've got something I'm really pushing towards. So help me out there. If you can spread the word and tell a friend about this show, I would greatly appreciate that as well. As always, thank you guys. Have a great week and good luck this week at the Farmers Insurance Open. Enjoy Torrey Pines. I will be back live tomorrow night for the Jock Market Power Hour with Rick Gaiman. Have to mention the Tour Junkie stuff before I get out of here. So if you're in the Nut Hut, it's like $2 a week. That is their paid sort of behind the paywall stuff. I've been putting exclusive picks there on top 10s, top 40s, and matchups. 11-2 in matchups on the season right now. Your boy is red hot. Get over there for $2. You can check out Joe's Smoke Lounge and maybe hit a couple more matchups with me. Those will be out. Have a great week once again. Thanks for the support. Peace.